operate remotely as allowed per Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, signed by Governor Baker on April 3rd, 2020. This meeting is being recorded and also being broadcast live via Charter Channel 193 and streaming live on the Easthampton Media YouTube channel. I now call the City Council meeting to order. Barbara, can you please take the roll?
Ben Conniff.
Here.
Salem Derby.
Present.
Omar Gomez.
Here.
JP Kaczynski. Bill Lynch.
Here.
Tom Peak.
Here.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Here.
And Owen Zaret.
Present.
We will now take the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of May 20th?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the meeting minutes of May 20th. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Ben Conniff.
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Bill Lynch.
Yes.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Thank you. We now have an opportunity for the public to speak on anything that is technically not on our public hearings. And by that, I mean, if you want to speak about an item that is in our public hearing, we can engage with you at that time. If you'd like to speak now on anything else, we won't be able to have a back and forth, but you are certainly welcome to say whatever is on your mind. So if you would like to speak, please go ahead, and there's a button on your screen that allows you to raise your hand. If you want to go ahead and do that, we will take you off mute and let you speak.
Dave Motter has his hand raised, Peg.
Yep, go ahead. Let me unmute you. Okay, go ahead, Chief Motter.
Thank you, Counselor. I just want to touch briefly on the rescue on Saturday on Mount Tom of the paraglider. I'd like to point out not only the members of my department and the police department, but the members of the Western Mass Tech Rescue Team. They're made up of firefighters from the 4 Western counties. They're the ones, along with a citizen who works as a rescuer for the Paragliders Association. They rigged the ropes, 4-hour operation to get that guy down. And it was amazing. I looked at it and figured that we'd be there for 4 days. Kind of like a cat in a tree. Eventually they come down. Paragliders don't. That team was phenomenal. And I also want to give a special shout out to Johnny from Nini's. When you put 20 plus public safety people working as hard as they were up and down terrain for 4 hours, they need to eat. And Johnny fed them with some of the best grinders I've ever had from Nini's. So to Johnny from Nini's and the Western Mass Tech Rescue Team, and as always, the police and fire departments. It was a difficult job, one of those once in a career incidents that couldn't have gone better if we had planned it that way.
That's great. That was a great effort. Thank you.
I don't see anybody else raising their hand.
Okay. We have time. Is there any communication from elected official boards and committees? Wow. I am shocked. Any correspondence or any announcements from you, Vice President Rist?
Yes, as the representative of the Southern District, the Plains area, I got a nice card from the planning department, and it deals with a survey that's online regarding a rail trail extension to the Plains. Jeff, do you have a minute to explain that? Because I'd like all of the people who live in the Plains area, my constituents, to participate in that survey.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting that. Yes. I took some extra time today to post a video on our Facebook page too, which has been really helpful in getting some words out. About 2 years ago, we worked with the Conway School of Landscape Design to look at like this idea of connectivity. So it's just a fancy word for ways that people can get around Easthampton. And this particular study focuses on that happening without cars. So a lot of it hinges on the rail trail, the Manhattan Rail Trail as it exists today. It's been long identified as a goal to make other connections off of the rail trail. So this goes way back, all the way to at least 2008. In our current master plan, there was acknowledgement at that point that we would need a new school. And it was not necessarily decided, but people had identified Whitebrook as that potential area. So in the 2008 master plan, it identified that we should be looking at ways to connect to the new school. Like the old school, Center Pepin and Maple are old, and everybody kind of acknowledged that something needed to happen. So this is grounded in that study. The Conway School, they look at a couple different scenarios to get people from neighborhoods to the school. So this particular element is actually, one thing I wanted to say is that this is a strange time for everybody with everything with COVID and everything that's happening around this country and elsewhere. It's hard, but I've been working on this project for 2 years. With this phase of the project, it's been in the works for about 8 months. And so now we're at this point where I have had to make some decisions. I don't want to stop, are looking ahead and kind of looking at creating some visions. So it is tough times, but what we're doing with the Conway School now is holding a meeting Saturday morning at 9:30 to gather some input and to display, some detailed, looking at these parcels and how it would work to connect the Plains area to Whitebrook Middle School. And so, there are a series of protected open space parcels that allow this conversation to happen. And it's a vision, it's an idea that, we want to explore as we move forward. Some of the things that are really important to know is that this is just a very early stage. So we're trying to gather input. The meeting is important, but not everyone is going to tune in to Zoom, and that's totally fine. But what we did was we put together a survey, and we sent a paper mailer to the residents of the Plains. So it's about 1,600 residents who should have gotten that mailer, and encourage them to take the survey because we don't have a lot of data. The Plains are an important area of our town that often are not associated with planning efforts and getting downtown and the rail trail. So the survey is the most important part. If we can collect some data from people, this is not pie in the sky necessarily. It's a foundation for us to look at. And the important thing that I see is, even though we're going through these really challenging times, it's devastating for a lot of people. The federal government and others are looking at stimulus packages, and they're looking for projects that can be funded, that are creative, that will connect people, and that could be put in place. And so, part of this effort is always to just have enough information available that we could potentially look at funding sources. And I know already, I'm almost done, but already people have worried about maintenance and costs, and those are very normal things to be worried about. But this is really just the concept, the idea. Could this idea work? There are funding sources that are specifically allocated for getting people to school. So one of them is Safe Routes to Schools. It's intended to get people out of cars and to schools with other ways. And so, this data is what we need to kind of have the foundation to even start talking about whether this project could be funded. So, Zoom is a tough platform. We want people to participate. We're gonna record it, and then we'll share out the information once it's done. But the survey is really the most important thing. So that's about how I would present that. Planning Department Facebook page, I've been putting out videos, and I made a video today that just tries to help sort of show this idea of a vision.
Thank you, Jeff.
Great. Anything else, Councilor Rist?
No,
All right. Mayor Communications, we have about 5 minutes before the public hearing, but if you need more, we can come back to you.
But I'm happy to, I would like to introduce a proclamation recognizing National Gun Violence Awareness Day. So I would say that I think the members of the community who came forward and asked for the proclamation, it renews our commitment to recognizing gun violence and working to reduce it. And I have a little card about wearing orange and also wearing my pin. So, but I'd like to read the proclamation. So, City of Easthampton proclamation recognizing National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation declares June 5th to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Easthampton to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence. Whereas every day, more than 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, and on average, there are more than 13,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 25 more times to die by gun homicide than people in other high income countries. And whereas in Massachusetts, we have 240 gun deaths every year with a rate of 3.3 deaths per 100,000 people. And whereas gun homicides predominantly occur in cities, with more than half of all firearm-related gun deaths in the nation occurring in 127 cities. And whereas cities across the nation, including Easthampton, are working to end the senseless violence with evidence-based solutions. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities that they serve is the mayor's highest responsibility. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best and are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and how are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas the pandemic facing America has drastically impacted communities and individuals sheltering in place, that may result in situation where access to firearms result in an increased risk of an intimate partner violence, gun death, suicide by gun, and unintentional shootings. Whereas in January 2013, Haya Pendleton, a teenager who marched in the presidential inaugural parade and was tragically shot and killed just weeks later, should now be celebrating her 23rd birthday. And whereas to help honor Haya and the more than 100 Americans whose lives are cut short every day, and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 5th, 2020, the first Friday in June, as the 6th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Haya's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods. And orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 5th, the first Friday in June in 2020, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 5th, 2020, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and to pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Nicole LaChapelle, Mayor of the City of Easthampton, do hereby recognize the first Friday in June 5th, 2020 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. In witness thereof, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. Also, our local chapter against gun violence will be placing orange flags and ribbons on the fence at 50 Payson. I think they've already begun to bring attention and awareness to National Gun Awareness Day on the 5th. And I encourage members of our community to wear orange. And if they have a pin or a symbol of gun violence awareness, please wear it on Friday. Thank you.
You're muted, Peg.
Thank you, Councilor Riss. Mayor, did you have anything else before we begin the public hearings, or shall we come back to you?
Please come back
Are you
to
done?
me.
Okay.
I am not done.
We'll come back. Okay, we'll come back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam President, I move that the public hearings be opened.
Second.
Motion is second to open the public hearings. All those in favor, Barbara, please take a roll call.
You're muted, Barbara.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Nick Conniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Motion passes. Go ahead, Dan.
So we have two items on the agenda, both of them dealing with the firefighters contract, which we will have to eliminate from the public hearing agendas because the numbers were wrong. The Finance Committee, when it went to review these, discovered that the numbers are wrong and we must have accurate numbers before we can move these appropriations forward. The Finance Committee did not discuss them. So I will be moving both at the same time to remove them from the public hearing agenda and from the Finance Committee's agenda as well. We have in new business 2 new appropriations, which I will be discussing and moving to Finance after the public hearing and during committee reports. So unless there's discussion, I would like to move that these 2 items be removed. They were revoked by the mayor, and I believe the finance team, we got letters to that effect. Madam President, you're muted.
Mayor, I see that your hand is raised. Did you have a comment about the appropriation that we're canceling from the public hearing? Your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify or ask for clarification from Councilor Rist about numbers being incorrect. The numbers in the contract stand as ratified and negotiated by myself. The numbers that were incorrect, and I deeply apologize for that because it was on our end, is the costing out of the contract over the 3-year period. I want to make sure that the public as well as the union had the full and correct information, and I appreciate Councilor Rist for the support of a full public review. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, I was talking about the appropriation numbers, but the numbers I'm sure that were originally ratified is not what I was talking about. So unless there's further discussion, I will move to remove these 2 items from the public hearing agenda, Madam President.
Do we need a motion for that, Dan?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And
I move, no hands raised. I move that the following 2 items be removed from the public hearing agenda and the Finance Committee's agenda without prejudice. $38,211.22 in interdepartmental transfer to fund the firefighters contract for the remainder of FY 2020, and a supplemental appropriation of
Workout band.
$541.62 to fund the firefighters contract for FY 2021. I move that they be removed from the public hearing agenda and removed from the Finance Committee's agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to remove the interdepartmental transfer of $38,211.22 and the supplemental appropriation $122,541.62 from the public hearing relative to the firefighters contract. We will be removing that from the public hearing. Any further discussion? Barbara, could I have a roll call, please?
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Homer Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Can we just, real quick, Barbara, did Salem Derby, was he absent or is he an aye?
I was an aye.
Okay,
I heard him.
I'm not sure we heard you, but I just wanted to clarify. Okay,
Shall I move on, Madam President?
please.
Okay, the budget hearings. We had a very long Finance Committee and very good, healthy discussion. All of the items were approved, but some were approved 2-1 because Councilor Lynch did have some amendments. The Finance Committee decided at its last meeting that those particular sections of the budget that Councilor Lynch would like to have amendments to would be continued in public hearings until June 17th in order to allow the department heads and the public time to absorb those particular amendments and the council as to whether or not we'd like to approve them. Consequently, I will bring those to our attention this evening, but I will be moving, if it's all right with the president, all of the sections we are not going to move tonight at one motion at the end of the meeting. I will move all of the items continue them to the next public hearing, if that's all right. We can deal with 4, and the reason we have to do that is one of the major reasons is because if these amendments are approved by the council, then the bottom line numbers as well as the enterprise chargebacks, etc., must be recalculated by our auditor and our treasurer. And as a consequence, we can't, even though we did approve 3-0 items such as debt and interest and unclassified, they have water and sewer enterprise aspects to them, which would also require recalculation. So those items cannot be dealt with this evening and will be at the next public hearing, at a continued public hearing for June 17th. So I will begin, if that's understood by everyone. Anybody have any questions on that? We're going to have to continue a number of these sections. Okay. I will start with general government. It was approved 2-1, but it will be continued to the next meeting. There were some amendments in it from Councilor Lynch, which again, we want to have fully vetted by the council and the public. I guess if there's any questions on general government, we should entertain them because this is a public hearing, but again, they will be reviewed at the next meeting. You see anything, Peg?
I don't. Are there any questions on the public on section 1 of the budget, general government? Seeing none, Councilor Riss, go ahead and continue.
I will continue to public safety. Public safety can be discussed. It was approved 3-0. The public safety budget, just to summarize, is less than about $3,000 or $5,000 less than the last year's budget. There are a number of elements in it which had to be reduced, and I'll let the mayor speak to this in specifically, but those items include, for instance, overtime and some unfilled positions that are vacant now were not filled at this time. But the mayor did indicate, and I'd like her to clarify, that in the fall, this entire budget will be reviewed most likely. And let me say, I should have said this from the beginning, the budget is based on revenues from the state, which were conservatively promoted by our finance team. But again, that is a very big question mark. So the mayor is indicating in the fall, we will probably have to go back to these. And in particular, public safety, I suspect that we will be able to hopefully deal with the public safety shortages, but they are what they are now. Mayor, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Councilor Rist. The budget, regardless of the state of the economy, revenues or expenses, I would ask this council to work with me to set up budget hearings to review each budget section, similar to what we have done in this process, whether there needs to be changes or not.
You mean
so
in the
we
fall,
have-
of course.
In the fall, in September, probably October. A part of that will, or a part of this request refers directly to the positions and the line items that you just addressed, to look at, first of all, the amount of reimbursement and any effect on our budget from FEMA, MEMA, and the CARES Act, as well as free cash. I'll remind the council that we have $788,000 that will come from cannabis. I will be requesting to put that, of course, in this cannabis stabilization account. That money is directed to certain activities and departments and functions in our government. And one of those is public safety, specifically fire and police. So those would be positions. Again, I want to reiterate, there are no cut positions in this budget. And there are a couple of plans that I have, depending on the revenue forecast, as well as other expenditures, to fill those positions as soon as I possibly can. My intent to fill those positions will not be put off until the end of fiscal year 21, unless larger economic conditions mandate that. But I feel confident in the plan that I have with the free cash plan to get everything filled.
Okay, and just to clarify, I've lost my train of thought. Never mind. Does anybody, do any of the chiefs want to speak to this? Anybody from public safety want to speak to this? Please let Peg know. Raise your hand. Counselors have any questions about public safety? I'm
I
not.
don't see any hands raised.
Anybody from the public? Okay, then I'll read a motion. Is that okay with you, Madam President?
Please.
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $535,173.85 for the various departments listed under Section 2, Public Safety, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Subcommittee. I need a second. Bill, in a second.
We have a motion and a second to appropriate the sum of $5,535,173.85 for Section 2 of the city budget, public safety. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will take a vote. Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Homer Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Yes.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Yes.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion unanimously passes 8 to 0. Go ahead, Councilor Rist.
Section 3, the schools. We voted 3-0 to approve this. The school budget was exactly level funded, which unfortunately is probably a net loss to the schools, but it was done in an effort, again, for hopeful better news from the state, Chapter 70 funds, etc. I don't know how well it affected the schools, but I did want to compliment the mayor in that she did her best to maintain our employees. There were no layoffs in the general fund budget. In the schools, I think there was 1 or 2, and I'd like to invite the superintendent, Dr. Allison LeClaire, excuse me, to comment on the school budget now. You have to unmute yourself, Allison.
There you
Okay.
go.
Thank you, Councilor Rist. Yes, we do have a few reductions to reach a 0%. We are hoping that some of our positions, we're just going to be shifting people into what will be open positions and reabsorbing them into the district in a different school perhaps, or a different role. And we do have one teacher that is part-time. That was the last person that came into the district. They will be reduced. And there's challenges. We have less enrollment in a few of our grades. So we're trying to be conscious of putting people, the right amount of people where we need to have them. So we feel that we can adequately provide the appropriate education by reducing this number of staff. So we just have a few adjustments in our staff to get to 0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions from the council for the school superintendent? Councilor,
Councilor Zaret?
sorry, Peg.
Counselor Zaret?
I don't know if this is really relevant as it pertains to this coming budget, but it's just more of a general budgetary question for the superintendent. Did we save any money this year in regards to operational costs with the schools being shut down for distance learning in the setting of COVID-19?
Yes, we did. And so what we have been doing is we saved money, but we also had to spend money. And what I mean by that is we were nowhere near ready to do remote learning. We had to buy more technology in order to push it out to students in our community that didn't have access to technology at home. And some of our teachers even that didn't have appropriate equipment either in the classroom or at home. So we made purchases like that. Of course, we had to get PPE just to clean our buildings, to protect our custodial staff, to protect our administrators that are in and out of the building right now. So we have been making some purchases that we're working with Jen Gallant on the city side to see if we could get reimbursed. So the final numbers we don't have exactly yet, but we're hoping to see some savings this year. And we did continue to pay our staff during this quarter.
Thank you for asking that, Owen, because that is the exact question that was asked in the Finance Committee meeting. And it's a good point to bring forward now. Any other questions for the Finance Committee or from the council?
I don't see any, Counselor Rist.
How about the public? Anybody from the public?
I'm not seeing any from the public either.
Okay, I'm going to read a motion. I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,536,095 for the various departments listed under Section 3 schools, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to raise and appropriate the sum of 17,536.
17 million, ma'am.
Let me try that again. There's a lot of commas. $536,095 for Section 3 schools. Any further discussion? I didn't want to give you a heart attack there, Allison, that we were. Any further discussion? Okay, Barbara, I will take a roll call vote.
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Homer Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch.
I heard an
Yes.
aye.
Yeah. Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild. Aye. Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Rist?
Section 4 Public Works, this was passed 2-1. Again, it has amendments requested by Councilor Lynch, and it will be continued to the next meeting. I guess we can allow for any questions now, but again, on June 17th, this will be fully discussed. Anybody want to speak to Public Works right now?
I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay, I'm going to move on then. Section
Any
5.
counselors?
Sorry?
I'm just, did you ask counselors?
Yeah, I asked anybody. Well, okay,
Okay.
you should ask counselors first. You're right. I don't see any hands raised.
Go ahead. No, we're good. Go ahead.
All right, same thing for Section 5, Human Services. It was approved 2-1 by the Finance Committee, but Councilor Lynch has some amendments. So it again will be set for public hearing, continued until June 17th. Any questions from counselors, city officials, from the public? Okay.
Counselor Rist, Counselor Zaret has something.
Okay, Councilor Zaret.
Just really quickly, because I think I missed this. So there will be an interim finance meeting to discuss this prior to the next hearing. Is that correct?
These were fully discussed at the Finance Committee level. They were voted on 2-1. But we decided that we wanted to give the public and the councilors time to absorb the amendments that Councilor Lynch is presenting and to allow the department heads to present rebuttal. So we decided that the public hearings for the full council would be June 17th. But the Finance Committee will not be rediscussing these items at committee level.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Section 6, Culture and Recreation. This can be voted on this evening. It was approved 3-0. Not a lot to say. It's practically level funded, although the Park and Rec Department did, because the parks are closed, have a fairly large reduction in budget. But the Park and Rec Director is fully aware of it and understands the need. I don't know if the mayor wants to bring anything forward on Culture and Recreation, but we can vote on it.
No.
Does any counselor have any questions on Park and Rec?
I'm not seeing any. I'm not seeing any questions from the public.
Okay, then I will move this. Section 6, I move the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $560,320.14 for the various departments listed under Section 6, Culture and Recreation, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations, with the following amount to be transferred as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Subcommittee. Oh, I should have read it. Okay.
Sorry.
We have a motion and a second to raise and appropriate the sum of $560,320.14 for Section 6 of the city budget, cultural and recreation. Any further discussion? Barbara, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild. Aye. Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Go ahead, Councilor Rist.
Section 7, Debt and Interest. Although the Finance Committee approved this 3-0, it has a water and sewer enterprise element to it, which will have to be recalculated should any of the amendments be approved. So it as well will have to be continued to the next meeting. No questions, I'll move on.
I do not see any questions, Councilor Rist.
Section 8, unclassified, which is employee benefits. Once again, it will have to be continued even though it was approved 3-0 by finance, because it has a water and sewer enterprise element to it, which will have to be recalculated. So I will be moving that for continuation. Any questions on that?
Not seeing any.
Okay. Section 9, community preservation. This was voted 3-0 by the Finance Committee, and we can move it this evening. We base the budget, as you all know, we get a match from the state. It was supposed to be 30%. It was brought in at 11% for the first segment of it. We always get 2 segments, but we did not budget the second segment. That allows us to have a fairly large cushion in case the budget is reduced, or not the budget, but the allotment from the state is reduced to only 22% from the 30 we're supposed to get. So there is a fairly large cushion. And so we feel comfortable with that budget as presented by for the CPA. And as the chairman of the CPA, I'm very proud of our members, and I'm very happy. We have a very good group. And as you'll see later, we have a rent relief appropriation coming forward. The CPA does good work for this city. I'm just going to say that. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, although I think Jamie's here too. Jamie, are you on this Zoom?
Yep, I am here.
Okay, so if you have any questions for the CPA, our administrator, Jamie Webb, is here too.
I'm not seeing any, Councilor Rist.
Tom Peak.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Peak.
Hey, I think I understand this correctly, but if we budget pretty conservatively for what we think we're going to get for CPA, and then it comes in way higher, that money still goes to the CPA, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's like
Thanks.
it's like extra revenue in the general fund. It becomes free cash, but it goes into our, what does it go into our undesignated fund?
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying is like, that extra money doesn't become free cash. It stays with CPA, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anybody else have questions on CPA? Any members of the public?
I'm not seeing any, Councilor Rist.
Okay, then section 9, community preservation. I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $534,750 for the various departments listed under section 9, community preservation, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations, with the total amount to be raised and appropriated from the community preservation fund as recommended by the mayor and finance subcommittee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to raise and appropriate the sum of $534,750 to the city budget, section 9, community preservation. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara, could we have a vote?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Councilor Rist?
Okay, section 10, enterprise was passed 2-1. It also has some amendments as proposed by Councilor Lynch. Therefore, I will continue it. Do we have any questions on enterprise at this time? The full discussion will be June 17th.
Not
Hearing
seeing
none.
any from the public?
Madam President, I am going to make a motion, therefore, to continue to June 17th the following budget sections. Section 1, General Government. Section 4, Public Works. Section 5, Human Services. Section 7, Debt and Interest. Section 8, Unclassified, and Section 10, Enterprise, to continue them to the June 17th meeting for public hearing.
Second.
Motion is second to continue the aforementioned discussion and votes on the sections of the budget that Councilor Rist just denoted. Any further discussion?
Val has a question.
I got it. Thank you.
Aye.
City Auditor Val, go ahead. Wait. Okay, go ahead. You're good.
There's one more vote there at the bottom.
Oh, the PEG access.
Yes.
Okay, I must rescind that motion for now. Well, wait, no, I don't have to do that because we didn't close the public hearing. So I'll move.
Right.
I'll vote on that afterwards. But we
Okay.
can vote on continuing the other sections, I think, now that we put forward. But we won't close the public hearings until we vote on the cable access thing.
So any further discussion on the motion on the floor to move those to continue the public hearing? I am not seeing any. Barbara, could we have a vote?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
So I actually missed this item at the Finance Committee level as well. We have a PEG access and cable related fund of 240,000. We must vote for this fiscal year. I am not up to speed on how this developed and what it is. Maybe Val, you could explain this to the council, or Jen, whoever knows more about it.
Sure. We voted to accept the law that allows us to have a revolving fund for the cable access fees so that we can take them in, we can pay the cable company out of them. And then, you know, if there's any extra, we can use it for certain things. So we passed that law actually 2 or 3 times. We only needed to pass it once. But once you pass it, then every year you have to set not a budget, but a cap on the account. So this 240,000 is the amount that we're setting as a cap, so that that amount of money can go in and out, but not more than that.
And that money comes from our cable access agreement with Charter or Spectrum, correct?
Yeah, and the local access people use the money.
Easthampton Media, that's
Right. We collect the money and then their portion of it goes, and the mayor can explain this probably too. Their portion of the money goes to them, and what's left we're allowed to use for certain things. But it allows us to pass through the money. Otherwise, it would have to just go to general fund and we would need a budget appropriation to pay them.
okay.
I can speak to, Mayor, you certainly can speak to it as well. 2 counselors on the city council are part of the board of directors of Easthampton Media. And so this money, 95% of the money that we get from Charter goes to fund Easthampton Media and the operations and the recording and all of what you see before you, public access, as well as the work that residents can do, come in and make recordings. So 95% goes to Easthampton Media, 5% is held back for the city for capital improvements to their infrastructure. And as Val said, they set a cap for it. I'm not sure we hit $240,000, but that's what that is, and that's what that money is to be used for.
The mayor has her hand raised, Madam President.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes. So the 5%, and we have started to use that, the extra 5% is to improve communication infrastructure within public buildings, and most specifically at 50 Payson. And some of those improvements have started to happen, and some of those improvements are hung up by Charter Communication Spectrum, because they need to get Easthampton Media some detail of what equipment we buy next. So you'll see the plan is to see some improvements in Payson Ave over the next year, hopefully sooner than a year. And then we couple that with some of our IT money, and we're able, whenever we have meetings back in City Hall, what people will see is, I think they're 80-inch TV screens in the conference room and 2 upstairs in the school department, city council chambers. So we can switch to those screens for the public and presentations, as well as everyone in either one of those the boardroom or chambers can see, without turning out lights and all this craziness, can see what is being presented by members of the council, members of our staff, as well as members of the public, as well as video. So we're starting to update. This money doesn't come out of the general fund, nor does it affect, and it is money that is designated for such projects.
Thank you. I understand, Madam President, that 2 counselors have to abstain from this, including yourself.
That's correct. Councillor Lynch and myself will be abstaining from any vote on this particular topic.
Because they are involved as board members of Easthampton Media.
Correct.
So the public knows why they're abstaining. They don't reject the particular
Right.
item.
Right. In fact, we're really for this in many ways. So
If there's no other questions, I'll make a motion.
go for it.
Okay, I move that the city set the limit on the PEG access and cable related fund, MGL 53, function 3-4 at $240,000 for the fiscal year for fiscal year 2021, beginning July 1st, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for to move that the city set the limit on the PEG access and cable related fund at $240,000. Any further discussion? Barbara, I'll take a roll call vote.
Peg Coniff,
Abstention?
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Abstain.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
I always approve of access to PEG, so yes.
Oh, boy. Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the public hearings be closed.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public hearings. Any discussion? Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes. Public hearings are now closed. Mayor, you had a couple of other items that you wanted to talk about in the mayor communications. So let me unmute you, or you can unmute. There you go. Go ahead.
Hi, okay. So the next item, I'd like to present, and I have some folks in the meeting to speak to it, is I have a request to the council around our municipal vulnerability protection action grant. So we've already done a feasibility study last year and had great public participation and an all-day workshop that was also joined by many of our leaders in different departments. So I won't read word for word the memo, but I do want to call out Diane Rossini, our staff engineer here in Easthampton, as well as Julie Busa from Fuss and O'Neill, who's also an Easthampton resident, on their work on the project. I am asking for the council to approve submitting a letter of support with the grant from the council, and also to authorize the expenditure of funds on the relevant privately owned parcels. And the reason why I'm asking that, it would be public dollars that would be spent on privately owned parcels. This project goes to the heart of our public infrastructure and those issues that are on Industrial Parkway and Cherry Street, as well as Mount Tom Ave and the Brickyard Brook Conservation Area. And I would also like to thank Councilor Peak for connecting and reconnecting us with as residents who are directly affected by the flooding. What I'd like to do now is allow or ask for Greg Nuttleman from the Department of Public Works to describe the disasters that happen. And then if Diane and Julie could jump in and speak to the remedy, that would be wonderful. I think Greg is still on the line or in the meeting.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
What we're dealing with is major head wall failures on the drainage system at the end of Industrial Drive and also at the end of Cherry Street. And as part of that, both of these were issues that were identified in the Integrated Water Resource Management Plan we completed a couple years ago. And at that point in time, they were identified as at risk of immediate failure within the next 5 years. Now, I need to remind you that those recommendations were made over 2 years ago. So we're on borrowed time with these things. And this MVP grant really presents us an excellent opportunity to get dollars from outside of the city to complete some of this work. These are pretty big ticket items. They're intense with regards to design and permitting, and if the council's able to support us in this, I think it's an excellent thing for the city going forward. And I'd like to thank Diane and Julie and the abutters down on Industrial Drive who've already signed on to support our efforts there. And we're really looking forward to getting these things off the list without, reaching into the residents' pockets to get it done.
Great.
Mayor or Greg, I have a question. When the memorandum, Mayor, that you provided us says to authorize the expenditures of funds on the relevant privately owned parcels, are those known parcels on Industrial Parkway and Cherry Street, or are these potential future known parcels that we don't know about yet? But when, is there specific places on Industrial Street? Is it the entire street? When you say relevant privately owned parcels, I guess I'm just trying to understand what that means.
So on the next page, it lists the parcels with parcel number and addresses.
Oh, I didn't print that page. That explains it. Never mind.
Gotcha.
And if I can add to that, what we're looking at possibly doing there is just green infrastructure improvements to take some of the loading off of the drainage infrastructure on Industrial Drive or Cherry Street to prevent, we've had some issues with flooding on Industrial Drive when we get heavy rain. And if we can look at some greener ways to deal with that precipitation as we see these stronger storms, if we can take some of the loading off of the outfalls of those two systems, it's gonna help keep things operating over there.
Great. And at that point, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mayor. You can speak.
Councilor Rist had Councilor Rist
I
had.
have a question, but I can wait.
Okay, so if Diane could just speak to the whys and the wheres and the engineering of the grant, and then have Julie kind of explain the type of grant it is and what money is on the table.
Okay, I will wait for my question. That's good.
So basically, Greg explained it pretty well. Basically, we had the IWRMP that was done a few years ago, and these were two of the big projects on these on the IWRMP. They're big ticket items, so they're not something that we can do without substantial funds from the city or from grant funding. This grant funding would allow us, the grant would support 75% of the funds for this project.
Wow.
So we could put our funds to other things that are needed in public works and on the IWRMP. So these two projects, the head walls are completely gone on both the Cherry Street outfall and the Industrial Parkway outfall. There's sections of pipe as much as 30 feet that have already fallen into the brook. So they're falling back into other people's property, which are the people that we need the support to go through their property to access these and fix the issues. And also, I believe in the fall of 2018, we had a decent flood in one of the higher intense storms on Industrial Parkway. And that's the green infrastructure we look at on those intense storms, being able to handle some of that that flow. But we also need to look into it as part of this. This would just be for design and permitting because this grant is only for a year. And in order to construct it, we wouldn't be able to do that within the year. So MVP, they really look to support projects all the way through to the end. So as we would not be able, we wouldn't be necessarily in line to get the funding in the next round, which we would also go for, but they really do like to support projects all the way through to the end. They don't want to see something designed and then put on a bookshelf.
Great. And then Julie, are you still on the line?
She is.
I am. Yeah, so just to speak a bit more to the MVP grant, this is the state's municipal vulnerability preparedness program. As the mayor said, it's focused on climate resiliency. So the fact that these particular projects are being worsened, that the conditions are being made dramatically worse by the increased frequency in heavy storms and precipitation is the primary reason that we're able to make this a strong case to apply for funds for these projects. It is a 25% match, and 75% of the funds would be supplied through the grant, as Greg noted and Diane noted. And as Diane said, we would attempt to go for the next phase of the project in the following round.
Great, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Diane.
I have a question.
Oh, Councilor Rist?
I'm assuming this is a financial matter. It'll probably come to our committee. Do we have a figure on what the grant you're going for is, since what we're asking is the city to do a 25% match? And I assume that 25% match would come from enterprise funds. Just curious, because I didn't see a figure in there. Did I miss it? Who's going to answer that one? Julian or Diane? Is there a figure involved in this?
I can speak to that. The overall project cost that we have outlined is $363,000. That includes in-kind services, which can be tallied as part of the match. So
really?
Yep. So the entire match is $90,000, and we're anticipating needing about half of that with in-kind services. So the labor that town staff or city staff are already going to be contributing to the project can be counted towards it, as can volunteer time. So the grant does have a robust education and engagement component, particularly focused on environmental justice communities. And both of these projects are located in environmental justice communities. So all of the volunteers that we're able to involve, anyone who comes to public meetings, we count their time as well. And so that brings the cash match to probably a little under 50,000.
So that cash match won't be sent to the council until you find out how much of a grant you're going to get. You've applied for that $300,000 figure, but you don't know if you're going to get the whole thing, or is it they will grant all of it or they will grant some of it? I'm just curious if there's a range of what the grant will give us. Do you know that, Julie?
Typically, they fund the entire project. I don't think that there's any reason to expect that they would take out a portion of the project that we're proposing here. So I would anticipate that the full amount would be funded.
So we would be getting a future appropriation request, probably from enterprise funds for the match once you get the grant. Is that true? I mean, we're not going to approve an appropriation now. It'll become in the future when the grant is approved. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Yes. The grant or the grant application requests at this point that we have a city council vote, in particular because of the use of the grant funds and city funds on what are privately owned parcels. They want to know ahead of time before they assess the grant applications that there's support from the city and from those private landowners to make this happen. And that's why they're looking for a vote now.
So, Madam President, this looks kind of urgent given that we're worried about these outfalls. So I would like to move this to finance. And does it need a public hearing, Barbara? I don't think it does.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I would like to move it to finance if it's okay with you, Madam President, or not?
It is. I just have a really quick question before we do that. And maybe this is to Julie. When we move it to finance and we're discussing it in finance and we have to make approvals, is there a scripted motion that is typically used that we can have for this particular approval of I'm assuming we're going to be submitting a letter of support with the grant. Is that what we're voting on specifically?
Yes, I believe that there was a motion language that was circulated.
Okay. It may be something I haven't printed, but if it's in the packet, Barbara, have you seen the motion?
It didn't look like it was in the form of a motion to me.
Okay.
No, it's not in the packet. I'm looking at the packet. So I think if you could
we'll need
provide us with one for the finance committee.
Agreed.
And the letter as well, if there can be a letter prepared so it's, can be signed.
Agreed. Jeff Bagg, city planner.
I defer to the mayor. I think the mayor had her hand up first. I just, the planning department is involved in this to help facilitate and be part of it going forward. I just am not, I'm not 100% sure that there's an actual appropriation request at this point.
No,
so
there is.
I think the request, in the memo, I think that, you know, the council's being asked for a letter of support and to acknowledge that if awarded, funds would be used on private property. So I'm just thinking that I'm not sure that this is an appropriation request that needs
No,
to
that's
go to
well
the
understood. That's well understood, City.
It's understood.
What we're trying to get at here is what you need in the form of a motion from City Council that will represent the approval or the letter, so that you can take that and use it as, I'm guessing, leverage when you go to get your grant. So that's really what we're trying to understand at this point, is what you need from us in the form of an approved motion.
And
Mayor?
they were in the packet.
The motion wasn't there. I didn't see it.
Please hold. Mayor?
Hi. I'm not asking for a motion.
But
I'm
if you're asking for us
letter
to
of
approve something,
I'm asking for a letter of support that has no money attached.
right?
And we're under a deadline for this grant to get into this round. The appropriation would come before you, and certainly you could say no to. And we would not accept that grant.
Yeah, and I just want to be really clear with everyone. I'm not asking for a motion for an appropriation. It appears that there is something that you need from the council. I'm merely trying to ascertain what is the wording of that thing. If you just need us to go, hey, yeah, we approve that you can go get a grant, that's one thing. If there is specific legal language that you need in order to go for that application, that's, I think, what we're looking for. If there's not, then
there's not legal. Oh, I'm sorry. There's not legal language. It's just a letter of support, similar to the template that we we sent to the neighbors, as well as Councilor Peak, and certainly, you know, Will Simon as the district councilor. It's not legally binding. It is just supportive of that we go forward, and it's helpful. We've asked for those letters from our electeds, other electeds and whatnot. But again, we would supply the we did supply the council, and if there was confusion about a motion, I don't know what action it is. I mean, we would just like all 9 city councilors to sign on to this letter.
Got it.
To show strong support, because the grant application literally is check box, and every box has a weight to it, like numbers of points.
Thank you. Yeah.
And and the grant deadline is, I think June 11th.
Mm-hmm.
June 11th.
Yep.
Okay.
If the council cannot doesn't want to go through, I would just withdraw. I would withdraw my request.
I don't.
I mean, if it has to go to if it has to go to committee, I mean, I understand the process.
No.
Councilor Rist?
I didn't know there was a June 11th deadline. The letter.
Yeah, that's what
my packet. There's no letter in the packet with have signatures on it.
Right.
But
Jeff, did we submit? Right.
If the council is okay with it, I mean, we need these grants. It's an example of what the planning department can do for us for these kind of grants for the DPW, and we need them. So I'm certainly in favor of providing a motion approving of a letter that we all can sign tonight. I don't want to miss out on a June 11th deadline. I don't know what people want to do, but I certainly think a grant is important to try and get.
Councilor Peak?
Yeah, so I guess my one question is, are we looking, I mean, because, you know, under our council rules, if nobody objects, we can just take a vote on a matter of business without sending it to committee. And I don't know about you guys, but you know, maybe I'm biased because most of this is in my precinct. I don't really see what the controversy is. That being said, I guess my first question is, are we even looking for a vote here, or is it just like a letter and DocuSign that you'd like us to sign? Because if that's
a letter and a DocuSign, and I would just ask, Planner Bag, did the letter the letter get submitted or not?
You're muted.
To the
Jeff.
council.
I'm muted. I don't know if we've entered a little bit of semantics, but I think if the council can, a vote is important. So two things. We want the city council to sign a letter of support for the application. So that's very general. The letter of support says we, Easthampton, want to, apply for $375,000 for this project. So that's very straightforward. I'm trying to toggle between the meeting and the document. So I see a memo from the mayor dated May 27th in the packet. Yep. And it's asking for two things. One, to approve submitting a letter of support with the grant. And then two is to authorize the expenditure of funds on relevant privately owned parcels. So it's not, sorry, I'm losing my screen here. It's not to authorize allocation of funds, but it's to say that we will, if approved, be okay with spending public dollars on private property. And those are 4 properties that are identified in the grant. Each of the 4 property owners have agreed to allow this to happen. So I do think, and I would refer to Julian Busa, but I think that it's important that the council acknowledge that public dollars will be spent on private property. That's part of what we would like to submit, but it's not the actual expenditure.
No, and let me be 1000% clear. My questions were around what you needed from the council tonight, and what we have to make a motion if we're going to vote on something. So all I was asking was, what will that motion say? If the motion's going to say, does the city council motion to approve submitting a letter of support to the grant to get the grant? That's fine. It's a little ambiguous and doesn't really have wording that's meaningful to me. So I get that there's no money being talked about tonight. I'm totally fine with that. And I'm totally fine with approving the letter. What I'm saying is, do we have a format of a motion that will be appropriate for this?
Yeah, I see it in the packet. It's page 2 of that memo. It follows that memo from the mayor. I mean, I think that was put together to dictate the motions.
Great. Then does anybody have their hand? Oh, Councilor Zaret?
So just to clarify, I mean, and I don't, if I'm understanding this correctly, I don't have an issue with a letter of support, but would that leave us any opportunity in a further time to discuss fund allocation?
Oh God, yes.
Okay. Yes. I don't have an issue with support of this at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
Councilor Riss.
It looks like that what I thought was a memo is a directive to sign a letter, etc. Jeff, is that all we have to do is read this entire letter and vote on it?
I believe so. I didn't put it together.
I believe list the parcels and everything. I mean, I think that's the safe thing to do. Read that entire thing, Peg.
Sure.
And vote on it. But we have to ask if there's any counselors that object to voting on it this year. Fully noting that we won't be able to apply for the grant if we don't vote on it. Does anybody object? No?
I'm not seeing anyone.
Shall I read the motion, Madam President?
Please, if you have it, let's read it.
I have it. I move that the City Council sign a letter in support of the MVP Action Grant application by the City of Easthampton that will fund a citywide green infrastructure master plan, focused flood resiliency design for Industrial Parkway and Cherry Street. In addition to detailed permitted designs for these 2 sites, the master plan will include concept level designs for future implementation on city-owned parcels and municipal right-of-ways, as well as centralized approaches, to increase flood storage and restore ecosystems on municipal lands. This project responds to priorities identified in the city's Community Resilience Building Workshop as part of the city's previously completed state-funded MVP planning grant. Increase the city's resiliency to flooding, develop an overall resiliency vision for the city, decrease specific flooding hazards associated with impacts to both a day care facility and commercial business on Industrial Parkway. Advanced designs and permitting for priority projects that were identified in city's 2018 Integrated Water Resource Management Plan. Implemented green infrastructure and/or nature-based solutions to decrease stormwater flows and increase filtration. Number 2, in the event the grant is awarded, the City Council approves the use of grant funds and a 25% city match consisting of combination of cash and in-kind services by staff and volunteers and with the understanding that these funds will be expended for the work on city-owned property and in city road right-of-ways, as well as on selective privately owned parcels. Specifically, funds will be used to redesign permit projects to repair the city stormwater outfalls, restore and stabilize failed slopes, and develop an up-gradient green infrastructure projects at Industrial Parkway and Cherry Street, which will involve expenditure funds at the following properties. Parcel number 114-25, 16 Industrial Parkway. Parcel number 114-26, 15 Industrial Parkway. Parcel number 149-98, 67 Cherry Street. And parcel number 149-85, 99 Mount Tom Avenue, Brickyard Brook Conservation Area. I move that the City Council approve this letter.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve a letter of support for the MVP Action Grant. Any further discussion?
I just want to say Barbara will have to supply us with a signature page.
Yep.
On the bottom of all of that tomorrow.
Okay. Anything else? Barbara, I will take a vote.
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Phil Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. Anything else, Mayor? Have we
Yes.
scared you off?
No. Okay, so I do want I want to thank Lena Akhtar, an activist and independent consultant in Easthampton, who contacted me and talked me through the President Obama Foundation's Commit to Action. It's a pledge that mayors and city councilors can take and sign on to. And it is a commitment by myself as mayor to review our police use of force policies, engage communities by including a diverse range of input, experience, and stories in your review, report the findings of your review to your committee and seek feedback, reform your community's police use of force policies. This was just announced on a live town hall by President Obama in conjunction with My Brother's Keeper. I have signed this and will put it forth and bring it to the Community Relations Committee. I encourage all of the city councilors to review. It is at obama.org/mayor-pledge. You can also just go to the Obama Foundation. The strong language of this pledge dovetails very well with a decision that Chief McMahon made in 2015 to sign on to the 21st Century Community Policing Protocols, an act that was put forward by President Obama. The pledge this pledge looks and connects directly to those principles, as well as several activist organizations that are listed on this website. So I wanted to, as well, the Municipal Police Training Council, as well as the state mandates that all of our police use this training model. And Easthampton has, and now it's time to take it to the next step with the 5 steps of the pledge, which again I will bring to the Community Relations Committee, which has not been meeting because of COVID-19, but we'll be talking to the chair, Jane Lynch, about that. Dovetailing into that tomorrow, Thursday at 4 p.m., as the joint statement that the police chief and myself put out yesterday around the death of George Floyd, the death of Breonna Taylor, and so many others due to generations of systematic racism and oppression. throughout our government, but also society. We invited folks to join the chief and I to kneel for 8 minutes and a half. It is 8 minutes and 46 seconds to reflect, one, on the brutality as we watch Mr. Floyd literally die on hot pavement by really just a, just a sociopath. I don't know how else to say it. As the man cried for his mother and said he couldn't breathe. By Breonna Taylor, who did nothing but was at her home. These are all words and calls to action and change that have happened way too many times. So I signed the pledge. I ask folks to do deep reflection on this, get ready for very hard confrontational work by this city, by this mayor, by the council, by the police force. The invitation tomorrow at 4 p.m. is exactly that invitation. There will be no mandating, and there is no mandating of any city official or employee. I think it's counterintuitive to tell somebody that they must protest and this is how they're going to do it. We have First Amendment rights. The invitation in no way supersedes or is trying to dampen any other civil protest or outcry that is safe in the city or in other places. Reverend Sherry Tucker at our congregational church will be ringing the church bells starting at 4 p.m. for the duration of us all taking a knee that are going to join. We've gotten some great reports of who else is going to participate, including a church in West Springfield that will be taking a knee and thinking about what it is like to have a knee on a ground, never mind someone's neck on hot pavement, and be so nonchalant and so sure that nothing would happen to them. And I thank Reverend Rabe down in West Springfield for reaching out and letting us know that. And that's the point. And there was a lot of conversation about the kneeling or taking a knee or whatnot. The bottom line is, I want my knee on the ground for that time. I want to understand and fully release my disgust, my horror that anyone could do that, but also that this man singly, and I will never say his name, has destroyed even the most fragile public trust that the public and the police have of each other. This is not the time to start things on fire and tear down our community. It is a time for us to bring everybody to the table and talk. And when I say bring, not force, not demand, not ask those who have been subject to oppression for so long to explain to us why it's so bad. For those who've had the privilege to watch and say we're sorry, to actually do something. And that is not going to be for a week or a month or a year. It will outlast COVID-19. That said, the reason why we invited folks to take a knee wherever they were in Easthampton was that we're in the middle of a pandemic that has not gone away and will not take a break for systematic racism and oppression in any protest we have. And there is a real health concern around people congregating in one place, even with masks, even with social distancing, face covering, washing hands. And I would urge folks to just think about that. Is there a way to take, to kneel and do that safely with more than 2 people or 10 people? With proper distancing, yes. I am not mandating, I'm not telling people what to do. I just want them to consider. There will be no speeches tomorrow at 4 p.m. by any municipal official or employee at the beginning or the end. There's been enough pontificating. Let's put us in the place and think about George Floyd and that there was a knee on his neck until he died while policemen watched on. And that is the worst example of police brutality that I've ever seen. But it does not mean that all police as people and as police officers are that way at all. We need to open those chains of communication. And I will, without naming names, there are some very brave members of our community who have started that conversation one-on-one with both myself and the police chief and other members of public safety in this council. And I thank them. It's been an education. Any questions around the event tomorrow, please reach out to myself or the chief. We'll have people on our phones and the emails watching carefully. I have a couple of calls scheduled after this meeting to address. I feel the one-on-one conversations are really important so people feel trust. We build trust from the very top of our city down, so people can take a moment and be safe in having the conversations. So that's all I have to say about Thursday and tomorrow.
Thank you, Mayor. Did you want to say anything? Excuse me. Did you want to say anything about Friday, or Chief Alberti, if you'd like to say anything about tomorrow?
Good evening, Council. The only thing that I would like to add with regards to 21st century policing that Chief McMahon implemented back in 2015, we still carry on that commitment to 21st century policing and the 6 pillars as outlined. So we've been continuing that. We've never gotten away from that. The state training mandates it. My policies dictate it in our police department. So we adhere to that. Mary did a great job with her presentation just now. So I don't have a whole lot more to add other than if you're going to come out tomorrow, be safe and PPEs and socially distance. And the end of all of it, we're all for, and we hope that any demonstrations are peaceful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
If I could just, I saw Councilor Gomez. I also just want to address the idea and the commitment to training. The next step of this pledge, but also the next step on top of that police training, because we've heard a lot like, okay, there's training, and the perpetrator of this horrendous act also had that training. The next step is a conversation between all of us. A part of that training, a part of bringing DOJ into our city was about a conversation, and we're underutilizing what we put into our own government. That conversation starts and is connected to my Keeper's Pledge, to the Civil Rights Division of DOJ that came in, the Community Relations Committee. We need to use those and figure out what's next. So now I really will.
Councilor Gomez?
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to say thanks to the mayor and the police chief for what they're going to do tomorrow, for the group of councilors that we have here in this city, and probably from the group that we have here in Zoom today. I personally suffer this in my skin. My dad grew up in Philadelphia, and when my dad grew up in Philadelphia, they segregate him. They don't let him to enter to a few places just because the color of the skin. 8.5 minutes is amazing, but we are being suffering for years and years, and racism is real, discrimination is real, and we have to understand that we need education. You know, as a parent, you know how many times we have fear, we're scared to send our kids out just because of the color of their skin. And it's not the police, it's a bad people, ignorant people. They are racist, ignorant people that they want to discriminate against people just by the color of the skin. And we have to be all together fighting against this. You know, it's hard. A few years ago, it happened at the high school. And in our high school, is right here. We have people around us that discriminate against us because our accent, because how we look, because how my daughter have her hair is so curly. You know, it's painful. And 8.5 minutes, it's gonna sound mean, but you guys are gonna suffer just 8.5 minutes while we suffer for years and years. Again, I appreciate what you guys doing, but we need education. We really need education and be working all together to try to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, did you want to speak to the Pride?
I have more. Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I didn't, okay. Did anyone want to speak to what the mayor just referenced? I saw, Owen, your hand went up. I didn't know if you wanted to.
That was just a thumbs up in solidarity with Councilor Gomez, and thanks for what you said.
Okay, thank you.
Lindsay had her hand up.
Councilor Rothschild, you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mayor and Chief Alberti and Councilor Gomez for sharing his feelings and experiences. I recently had a friend who her husband's African American, and they were buying something on Craigslist, and they had to come pick it up in Easthampton, and she wouldn't let her husband go to pick it up because she was afraid that a Black man coming to a door on a street in Easthampton might be dangerous for him. And it's real. That's a real fear. And I could see why she was afraid. It's not anything bad about Easthampton in general, just about communities that are mostly all white and growing up with people that are all the same. And to me, it's not a reflection so much on Easthampton, it's just a reflection on the real experience of people of color, the real fear for just simple things like picking up something from Craigslist, being an African American man approaching a door in an all white, mostly white community. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Councilor Rothschild. Okay, Mayor, if you have anything else you'd like to add?
One last thing. On Friday at 12:30, we will be raising the Pride flag for the month of June. Unfortunately, our own Pride celebration in May, and our contingent was not able to participate or to celebrate Pride because of COVID-19, and the parade was canceled. Instead, just to show continued solidarity and awareness, we will raise the Pride flag, the rainbow flag, tomorrow at 12:30. Councilor Coniff has agreed to present the flag with police officers actually raising it in proper flag protocol. Certainly that the public is willing, to come to witness or whatnot. Again, please use, face coverings and proper distancing. There will be no speeches. There will be no ceremony. We want to get that flag up in solidarity with our LGBTQI community, those who live in Easthampton and those who visit and just for everyone to know that this was not a one-off event last year. I'll defer to Police Chief Alberti about the officers who will be assisting President Coniff in the raising of the Pride flag.
Thank you, Mayor. So this, when we were asked to raise a Pride flag again this year, as we did last year, we're happy to participate in that. We're a little more excited this year. I don't know that you could have been any more excited, but we have a police officer who volunteered to be a liaison for the LGBTQ community within our police department. As we always strive for diversity within our department and make sure that we're available to all cross sections of the community. Officer Mitch Seekey has stepped up and he's very, very excited about being a liaison officer So we're pretty excited about this. We're pretty pumped about it, and we're happy that it's corresponding. This announcement of this liaison officer dovetails nicely into the raising of the flag. So we're as a department, we're very excited about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. Just one minor correction to the public. The mayor mentioned that the raising of the flag is tomorrow. It's actually Friday.
Oh, no, great. Oh, sugar. It's Friday. It's Friday at 12:30.
Exactly.
Friday at 12:30. Yes.
Tomorrow
yes.
is a different event at 4. The flag is at Friday
thank
at
you.
12:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Councilor
completed.
Rist, we will move on to committee reports, and we will start with finance.
Thank you, Madam President. On June 10th, a week from tonight, we will hold a 5:30 meeting, finance meeting. We will deal with the items on new business, which include the new fire contract appropriations and interdepartment transfers, as well as some CPA items. I invite Personnel Director Dixon there, any fire department employees that wish to come. That'll be an extensive discussion. I will also request that the city treasurer be there to make sure that the numbers that we have are, she's already approved these numbers twice, so I'm confident that they're all right. But in case there are questions, I'd like Jen, if you could be there. And that would be next Wednesday at 5:30. Right now, I'm going to go to new business and send some appropriations to Finance Committee, Madam President, if that's all right.
Please.
First, our 2 CPA requests. And let me say, you all know how strong I support the CPA and what it has done for our city. The quality of life projects are numerous. And so that all the taxpayers know, every dollar of taxpayer money that does go to the CPA is a seed that generally produces 5 times that dollar for leverage on grants and funds from the state. And we have been lucky to have all of these projects brought forward. One of the things we're doing is an open space and recreation update that Jeff Bagg has presented. And our open space and our recreation has been improved tremendously over the years because of CPA. But the one that I'm almost thrilled to be proud of is tonight you see a rental subsidy for rental relief because of COVID. And I want to put a shout out to Greg Rowland, who's a member of our committee, who wondered if this was possible. And I am thrilled that it is possible. And I want to thank Jamie Webb, our planner, for getting this done, and especially thank the Easthampton Housing Authority for putting it together. This is real money going to people directly. All of the quality of life projects are wonderful and everybody uses them, but this money will help people who may, and I heard that they may want to reduce the eviction timeline, and that's disappointing. So this will help a lot of people who have rent issues. So that being said, I will move these forward. I just very thrilled that we're able to do it. The first appropriation is a request for the Community Preservation Act for the following: $36,000 to be appropriated from the CPA undesignated fund balance, $36,000 to be appropriated to Open Space and Recreation Plan Update, $36,000 for the following: for the purpose of preparation of an updated Open Space and Recreation Plan in partnership with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. The second appropriation from the Community Preservation Act is $300,000 to be appropriated from the CPA Reserve for Community Housing, $22,900. The CPA Undesignated Fund Balance, $35,800. And the CPA Reserve Fund, $41,300, for a total of $300,000 to be appropriated to Emergency Rental Assistance Program, $300,000 for the following purpose: to contract with a local nonprofit agency to administer a short-term emergency rental assistance program for Easthampton residents with housing insecurity due to COVID-19. The next appropriation is an interdepartment transfer. The amount requested is $50,903.58. Bear with me, there's a lot of accounts. They come from reserve, $50,954.74, to be appropriated to full-time fire salary, $20,816.55, overtime, $4,650, emergency overtime, $60, training overtime, $30, captain's grade, $45, education incentive, $19,500, holiday pay, $1,377.59, ambulance overtime, $45, emergency overtime, $255, EMT incentive, $4,175.60. Total for all departments is $50,954.74 for the following purpose: to provide funds for the rest of the fiscal year 2020 for fire salaries due to the new union contract. The last supplemental appropriation is $116,964.99 to be transferred from free cash, $116,964.99 to be transferred to various FY21 fire and ambulance salary accounts. Fire full-time salaries, $1,513.91, overtime, $1,500, emergency overtime, $2,120.90, training overtime, $60.45, captain's grade, $90.68, education incentive, $106,791.60, ambulance overtime, $90, emergency overtime, $405, EMT incentive, $4,392.45. Total for all departments, $116,964.99 for the following purpose: to provide additional funds to 2021 fire and ambulance budget for union contract signed after budget was submitted. I move that these 4 items be sent to the Finance Committee for review.
Second.
I just have a point of clarification on the first fire one. I'm seeing 2 numbers. I just want to make sure it's the 595474. You see what I mean, Dan?
Oh, yes, there is a typo there.
I assume it's the 95474.
I think it is. That was what's published. Valerie, is that correct? Are you there?
Yes.
So it's 5954. Number
Yes.
1 item is incorrect. It should be 595474.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one line there that's wrong.
Okay, thank you. I
Okay,
did motion
thank
and
you.
there was a second to move these to finance.
Did we get a second?
Bill did, I think, yeah.
Motion and a second to move these 4 items to the Finance Committee. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
I also move that the 4 aforementioned items be set for public hearing on June 17th at 6:15. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second to set a public hearing for these items as well for June 17th at 6:15. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Omar Gomez,
Yes.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Owen?
Owen?
Oh, are you gone?
No, I was trying to switch my mute thing.
Okay. I think that was a yes then. We'll go with yes. Motion passes 8-0.
So that concludes, Jamie, I do need you at that meeting on June 10th as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rist. Public Safety, Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to start we received the answer from the city solicitor about the ban of facial recognition surveillance ordinance. We take care of every single point that he told us to do. We did diligently, we did it, I send it to the president of the council, and I send it to the mayor later today. Later tonight, I'm gonna send it to everybody, and I send it to the co-sponsor Tom Peak too. And I think I asked to the President Conniff if we have to send it back to the city solicitor. And she recommend no, because we basically did what he was asking for, and because the money too is no reason why we have to send it back. That's correct, right, Madam President?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So we have a meeting yesterday, and we review it again, and we didn't make any change. We have some experts explaining to us, including myself and Councilor Rothschild, the changes and why it was better the language the city solicitor were recommended. So now I want to make a motion to do a public hearing for the ban of facial recognition surveillance ordinance for July 1st at 6:15.
Second.
Motion is second to set a public hearing for the ban on facial recognition surveillance technology ordinance. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Before I go, whoa, I'm very bright. Omar, were there changes from the one that you sent to me?
Yes, and I'm gonna send it today to you.
Okay, were you using the version that I redid with the section numbers and all that?
We make a few other changes too.
Okay, yeah, send them to me tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it later tonight.
Okay, all right. Okay, Peg Conniff?
Yes.
Salem Derby?
Yes.
Omar Gomez?
Yes.
Bill Lynch?
Yes.
Tom Peak?
Aye.
Dan Rist?
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild?
Aye.
Owen Zaret?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0 to set the public hearing.
So, thank you, Madam President. The other thing that we have in the agenda was the traffic calming program about the speeding concerns in our city. I have to apologize because I scheduled a meeting with the President Connor to figure this committee, and I canceled a few hours before because work. So I'm planning to schedule a meeting again with the president of the council to figure it out together how we can do this. I hope we can do it soon, especially before July 1st. And beside that, that's cool. Oh, we don't have any. We didn't schedule any meeting yet because I want to meet again before July 1st. I'm gonna reach Councilor Rothschild and Councilor Salem to see when we can do it. That's what we don't have any date yet, and that's concluded.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Appointments, Councilor Lynch.
Thank you, Madam President. We did not meet. I sent an email to everybody due to technical difficulties. I do apologize. So we do not have any updates from the current agenda items. I do have one new item that I'd like to make a motion to send to the appointments committee, if that's all right.
Please.
I would like to make a motion to take the mayoral appointment for Stephen Litwin to zoning board for a term expiration 12/31/2020 to the appointments committee.
Second.
Motion second to refer the mayoral appointment of, was it Steve Littman? Is that what you said?
Litwin, yep.
Litwin, to the planning, was it again, the planning board?
Zoning board.
Any further discussion? Barbara?
Peg Conniff?
Yes.
Salem Derby?
Yes.
Omar Gomez?
Aye.
Bill Lynch?
Yes.
Tom Peak?
Aye.
Dan Rist?
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild?
Aye.
Owen Zaret?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to schedule the next appointment meeting for the 17th at 5 p.m. Via Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes.
Ordinance, Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Madam President. We have not met, but we do have a meeting scheduled, and that meeting will be next Thursday, June 11th at 7 p.m.
Ooh. The night shift.
The night shift.
Okay,
That concludes.
thank you, Counselor Derby.
Looks like Dan has a question.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
Counselor Lynch, what was the date of your appointments meeting?
The 17, I think he said.
17th at 5.
Before
We can't
city
do
council.
that. We have a finance meeting at 5:30. Do you think?
No, it's before city council, Dan, 17th.
17th.
My apologies. Okay. It's getting late.
Property, Counselor Zaret.
Thank you, President Coniff. We have not met. I am still in the process of synthesizing some of the information for the property, the city property inventory. It's a little bit more difficult than I thought. As mentioned previously, the dog park discussion is somewhat in limbo because we require the Parks Commission to meet. And so I've been in touch with Director Mason, but it's still unclear when they're meeting. I do need to set a meeting today though, because we have a bit of new business that is on the agenda. One second. Sorry, I was holding on the space bar. I would like to make a motion to move forward our new business regarding the Maple Elementary School at 200 Park Street electrical easement.
Second.
Motion and a second to move the Maple Elementary School Eversource easement request to the property committee. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Hi.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. Go ahead, Counselor.
Pardon me. I'm sorry, President Coniff.
Okay.
Counselor Rothschild, are you available next Tuesday at anywhere between say 4:30 or 5?
You're on mute, Counselor Rothschild.
Tuesday's not good for me. I'm on Zooms pretty much from 3 to 7.
And there's another meeting at 6 o'clock next Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes.
How long and what meeting is that?
School committee.
No, it's
Rules is meeting next.
rules. I think it's
Rules?
rules.
That's going to be a long one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just help with that, Counselor Zaret. If you need to schedule over an existing city council meeting with a Zoom account, we have another one you could use if you need to use that time slot, but it doesn't sound like it will work anyway.
Well, Counselor Rothschild, can you meet at 7 or is that too late?
I don't want to be on Zooms for, like, I'm already on 4 hours of Zoom, so I think I'll be Zoomed out.
Let me look at my schedule then, and I will reach out. I'd like to schedule a meeting soon. Barbara, how much notice do you need? 48 hours?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd like to have it by tomorrow if you could, Friday at the latest. And I need all the Zoom information. Just saying.
Okay, Councilor Rothschild, I'll touch base with you after the meeting. We'll see what we can hash out.
Okay, and Counselor JP.
Right. I mean, obviously he's not here, but yes.
Okay.
I'm aware. Thus concludes.
Thank you. Rules and Government Relations, Counselor Peak.
Thank you, Madam President. We were supposed to meet last Thursday, but a majority of the committee, for one reason or another, was not feeling well. And given the sort of dense subject material, we decided to postpone. So we're going to be meeting this coming Tuesday, the 9th, to continue to discuss, or to actually start discussing the solicitor's feedback from last year's charter review committee. So if you're available, I think that'll be a pretty interesting, if somewhat dense meeting, and I obviously encourage you all to attend if you can, if you're interested. Councilor Rist, I see your hand.
I just want to say thank you for that. This process has a long process. It went to the city solicitor as it's supposed to. There are 6 counselors on our council that have not had full participation in this charter review. And it's in the council's hands now. So I encourage you to please try to attend, because the 3 of us, Councilor Peak, myself, and Councilor Gomez, we know what's in there. It's to answer the questions and to see what difficulties you might have. I also hope the mayor can attend, because she needs to approve. So I do reach out to all the other counselors, the 6 counselors that have not been participating in this directly. Some of you have indirectly or have come to some of the meetings, but I urge you to attend so that we can get this done. We probably won't get it done in one meeting, of course, but it's for you 6 counselors that have not worked on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't really have anything else to say at this time because we haven't met and there's nothing to introduce. So this concludes.
Councilor Peak, what time is the meeting next Tuesday?
That's a great question.
I thought you said 6.
I believe it is 6, yes.
And since council is not meeting until June 17th, you have an item that will be expiring on June 16th, if you'd like to extend it now.
Oh.
Payment in lieu of taxes resolution.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and yeah, just thanks for catching that. Just sort of an update on that whole thing. When Councilor Lynch and I spoke initially about it, sort of the sense that I got is that that was something that maybe we wanted to wait until we could sort of meet in person and have sort of a more inclusive public forum about. Of course, at that time, I don't think this was, also at the time, I think everyone was sort of tapped out just adjusting to the new normal. But I need to circle back with Councilor Lynch about that, because obviously I don't know if we really knew that we were going to be meeting remotely into June and really into the foreseeable future. So I don't know if we need to touch base on sort of strategy and timeline for that. In the meantime, though, I'll go ahead and request a 90-day extension on that item.
Second.
Motion is second to extend resolution proposal for pilot program 90 days. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Big Haniff?
Yes.
Salem Derby?
Yes.
Homer Gomez?
Aye.
Bill Lynch?
Yes.
Tom Peak?
Aye.
Dan Rist?
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild?
Aye.
Owen Zaret?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. Is that it then, Councilor Peak?
Yes, that concludes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just one more thing, Councilor Peak, is there anything on ranked choice voting committee?
Yes, the chair reached out to schedule a meeting in June, but we didn't end up meeting in May.
Okay. All right, great. Well, we have covered all the old business and the new business, and I will take a motion to adjourn. I'm sorry, Barbara?
Just for technicality purposes, the June 17th meeting is a special meeting.
Thank
so
you.
Maybe there should be a motion to schedule.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Yes, I completely agree. So yes, we will be having, typically in June, we only have one city council meeting, but because of the budget, we are going to have 2. So I would like to have someone please I'll make a motion. Councilor Gomez?
Yes, just want to know, that meeting is just for the budget, or it's going to? No, so it's going to be another meeting.
It's a full city council meeting.
Okay.
And if we have to have another meeting later in the month, that will be an abbreviated meeting. But this one will be, because I'd like to get some of the committee work pushed through as well. So do you want me to make the motion, Barbara, since it's?
I don't care. Somebody.
No, technically you don't need
Well, there you go. Councilor Peak?
Thanks. I just wanted to say that, we should vote on this now, but I also think maybe it might not be a bad idea to think about whether we want to go to a 2-meeting-a-month schedule over the summer, since it's not like any of us are going on vacation or anything. So you know, it just like, I don't see any purpose in like slowing down council business if we're all just going to be sitting in our homes.
I believe it's up to the president to schedule a meeting. The council doesn't have to approve. It's up to the president.
I just want to make a notation that your budget does not include payment for me for, I'm not positive on that, but it may not.
Oh, for an extra
Maybe
meeting?
we have to figure something
I
out.
didn't
Just
usually,
think we should think
but-
about what that would look like.
Yeah, we'll figure that out, but for now, I can't make a motion. So could someone please make a motion to set a special city council meeting for June 17th?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second, or whatever.
Motion and a second to set a special city council meeting on June 17th. Any discussion? Barbara?
Ed Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Homer Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rest. Dan?
Yes, yes.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Yes.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0 for a special meeting. I believe that is all of the business, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor, Barbara?
Ed Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Yes.
Homer Gomez,
Aye.
Bill Lynch,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rest,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Hi.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned. Take care, everyone. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.